Well, I think the word orderly is unhelpful because we're in a rather turbulent times, mainly thanks to President-elect Trump. I mean, we're seeing, a very substantial move up in bond yields in many countries, not just the UK. I mean, there is a problem for the UK, which isn't a kind of an emergency panic situation, but the fact the markets have realised Britain is stuck in this slow growth trap. We've been there for many years since the financial crisis, then Brexit, then a problem with COVID and Ukraine war, and we're stuck with relatively high inflation, very slow growth, and so the markets are marking the UK down, relatively speaking. But this is not a panic situation. It's not a crisis of the old style, balance of payment sell-off situation.
But we are reliant, to take that phrase again, on the kindness of strangers. And when you run large deficits, when you have large debt to GDP, Vincent, you know this far better than I will ever know this. So I will push back a little bit that this isn't just about Trump. This is about a clear and present danger with large deficits on the continent, large deficits in the United States from both administrations, whatever the stripes were, whether it was Obama, whether it was Trump, whether it was Biden, whether it's going to be Trump again. And so, as such, it leaves the bond markets in a scarier situation, or certainly leaving themselves open to a scarier situation because of these large deficits.
Well, you're right, but it's not just the UK. I mean, the UK has a distinctive problem, but, there is a problem in Europe, there's a problem in the United States.
We don't have the ECB backing, and we're not the world's reserve currency, which makes the UK very prone to danger.
It is relatively vulnerable, but I'll just put this in context, in my context. When I came into the coalition government, we had a rather similar situation. You may remember the Eurozone was on fire. We were seriously worried about the UK. The banks had collapsed. But one of the earliest things that we did, the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, was get on an aeroplane, go to India, go to China, make it very clear that Britain was open for business and that our future lay in growth and stability in the world economy. And I think that's an important signal for Rachel Reeves to send.
Yeah.
Vince, looking at my inbox, all I see is trust moment. All the headlines from various different brokers, from commentators. If you look at the press, trust moment again, also cited everywhere in the copy. Does this have the hallmarks of being a trust moment where we saw the reaction to the mini budget?
Well, I think if you look at what happened to bond yields after the budget, they actually declined for some weeks. I mean, I don't think, there are arguments about whether the government's mishandling the economy. They should have gone for a wider range of taxation rather than the damaging national insurance. But I don't think that is in itself what's spooking the market. I mean, the trust moment was a Prime Minister just taking a reckless leap into the dark with a big increase in the budget deficit on the assumption that this will somehow trigger economic growth. Well, that clearly isn't what's happened this time. The argument about whether they've done enough tightening and whether they've done it in the right way, but it's a different kind of problem.
What we're watching, though, is still escalation in this yield on the bond market, a slow-moving car crash in a way. What sort of reaction would you anticipate from the government here as that fiscal headroom is eroded?
Well, we've got to wait for the OBR. I mean, they are the people who set the framework for fiscal policy.
We can't wait till March 26th, isn't it, Vince?
Well, if there is a panic situation, but if this is a global problem, then, clearly the G7 need to engage with this, and also the Chinese. But China is quite important in this, because the Chinese economy is doing relatively badly in the short run, weak growth, and this is one of the elements in the overall weakness that we're seeing. So for Rachel Reeves to engage with the Chinese, trying to get them to do more than they are doing at the moment to expand their domestic economy is rather an important part of the equation.